Please be seated. Well, I can tell you've got a lot out of convocation. To applaud before I've said anything is an act of great faith. But I love this topic today, creating an inner environment for spiritual progress. I can't overstate how important the topic is, and the answer, if you will, is very simple. It's difficult to achieve, but it's simple. It's easy to understand. And to give us an idea of where the answer lies and how important it is, I'd like to begin by sharing a quote from Lord Buddha. He was meeting with his monks, and he said, "My monks, this is the goal of the spiritual life, the sure, unshakable deliverance of the mind." And when I heard that first time, I thought, why did he say that? The goal of life is self-realization, God realization. It's communion with God. It's oneness with God. All true. But I think he said it because you have to learn to walk before you can learn to run. And some of Guruji's words could help us understand why Lord Buddha described the goal of the spiritual life in this way. In lesson 31, and if those who are joining us for the first time in the streamed video, Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings, the soul-liberating meditation techniques of Kriya Yoga and the How to Live teachings that teach us how to spiritualize every aspect of our lives, are disseminated through printed lessons that are sent to your home. And in lesson 31, Paramahansaji said very simply, peace is the altar of God. Peace is the condition in which happiness exists. We are sitting here, participating online, because we want self-realization. We want God realization. And if peace is the altar of God, we can understand why cultivating and protecting our sacred peace of mind, the sure, unshakable deliverance of the mind, is an absolute necessity, an absolute requirement if we are to attain the goal of self-realization. Because it is on the altar of that sacred peace that we will know God. Not just have faith in God, not just have an intellectual understanding of God, but in the words of the Psalms, be still and know that I am God. And inner peace is often referred to in the Bhagavad Gita as even-mindedness. So we'll be focusing on that today. And if we want to create the environment, the inner environment for spiritual progress, even-mindedness is required. We need it, and we want it. It's that simple. And Paramahansaji brought to the world Raja Yoga, the complete or royal yoga. It's the quintessence of all the yoga disciplines. And it is the golden path of balance, best described as devotional meditation plus right activity. And not only is God communion not possible without first establishing that altar of peace within, but fulfilling that right activity half of the equation of Raja Yoga is also not really possible without the sure, unshakable deliverance of the mind. And one way to help us understand this is to I consider, even-mindedness as analogous to the operating system of a computer. And software apps run on the platform of an operating system. Without an operating system, apps won't run. And I see even-mindedness as the operating system of the spiritual life. In Autobiography of a Yogi, we read where the first time Paramahansaji showed up at his guru's ashram in Serampore, the first words out of Sri Yukteswar's mouth were, "Learn to behave." And he was referring to that right activity half of that Raja Yoga equation. So how do we do that? Well, a good place to start, many of us in the West grew up with the Ten Commandments. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he talks about his eightfold path of yoga. And the first two steps are yama and niyama. There's 5 yamas, 5 niyamas, 5 do's and 5 don'ts. They very closely correlate to the Ten Commandments. But perhaps the most comprehensive source to go to learn how to behave is in the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 16, Lord Krishna outlines the 26 ennobling qualities of soul that make man godlike. And these yamas and niyamas, these 10 commandments, the 26 ennobling qualities of the soul that make man godlike, are analogous to apps. They're spiritual apps. And even-mindedness is the operating system upon which these spiritual apps run. And without that foundation, without that operating system, the apps of the 26 qualities, yama niyamas, won't run. Or if that even-mindedness is corrupted, then again, those divine qualities, those spiritual apps, will also be faulty, will be corrupted, will not run properly. So even-mindedness is the foundation of an inner environment for spiritual progress that will support, enhance, and make firm all our spiritual gains. And here's something Guruji said in chapter 2 of God Talks with Arjuna. He said, a basic principle of yoga is that practicing mental equilibrium neutralizes the effects of delusion. Without the involvement of the emotions of the dreamer reacting to the sensations and incidents of a dream, the dream loses its significance, and especially its hurtful effects. Similarly, the cosmic dream of life loses its delusive power to affect the yogi with unruffled inner calmness and even-mindedness, views the dream of life without emotional involvement. And I'd like to offer a humble editing suggestion. Last night, Brother Chidananji talked about that occasionally when we're taken by surprise by a reversal of fortune, something happens in life, we get caught up in the emotion, and that's okay. But that's the power of introspection. We catch ourselves as early as possible. We catch ourselves in the moment, make a course correction, gain control of those emotions. So, until we achieve the goal of self-realization, we are a mixture, human and divine. We will feel emotions. So my suggestion, my edit here is that the cosmic dream of life loses its delusive power to affect the yogi who, with unruffled inner calmness and even-mindedness, views the dream of life without over-emotional involvement. Even-mindedness enables the yogi to keep himself aloof from the agitation and sting caused by the clash of opposites sporting on the mental screen of his consciousness, even while he perceives and enacts his part in the dream drama. But that first line, a basic principle of yoga is that practicing mental equilibrium neutralizes the effects of delusion. The soul-liberating techniques of Kriya Yoga and the How to Live teachings that Paramahansaji has brought to all of us, they are all geared toward neutralizing the effects of delusion. Why? So that we can remember who we truly are, the soul made in the image of God. And here Guruji is saying that a basic principle, a foundational principle of yoga is that even-mindedness neutralizes delusion. That's how important it is. And from another talk, from the new book just released this week, Solving the Mystery of Life, second chapter is a talk titled, Solving the Mystery of Life. So I think this is good advice. He said, by unceasing mental aboveness or even-mindedness, you neutralize and ultimately defeat the effects of cosmic delusion. Strengthen your mind so that you cannot be hurt. Make your mind so strong that you can rise above everything, so that no pain of the body, no circumstance of life can really touch you. And this is the first of a few times in this talk. You'll see he didn't qualify that in any way. He didn't say, make your mind so strong that you can rise above everything, unless. He didn't say, make your mind so strong that you can rise above everything, except. The saints and the avatars, uncomfortably for us, talk in absolutes, because they know, as souls, we are endowed with the intelligence to understand and the power to overcome everything that comes into our life. So again, if the goal of life is God realization and peace is the altar of God, it's getting easier and easier to understand while Lord Buddha told his monks that the goal of the spiritual life is the sure, unshakable deliverance of the mind. Now, the day before Paramahansaji entered Mahasamadhi, the final unconscious exit from the body, he went to Lake Shrine. When he returned to Mount Washington that evening, he was met by his monks. And this was to be the last time Guruji would be with his monks. This was to be the last time that Guruji would speak to his monks. And what did he choose to speak on? Cultivate the desire for God. He told them, no one else can give you the desire for God. You must cultivate that yourself. The Lord himself cannot give it to you. And it's the same with creating that inner environment for spiritual progress. It is a personal choice. It's a personal responsibility. Nobody can give us that even-mindedness. We may feel a great calming effect when we're in the presence of certain people. We may feel more peaceful in the presence of certain people. But nobody can give us the inner peace required to entice Divine Mother into the temple of our souls and to reveal herself to us fully. Since God has given us free will, Divine Mother herself cannot give us even-mindedness. That would violate our free will. We must choose to cultivate and fight for even-mindedness in every aspect of life. So how do we most effectively cultivate even-mindedness? How do we construct this altar of peace required to commune with God? And as always, it begins with meditation. But meditation alone is not enough. Again, Raja Yoga, the golden path of balance, devotional meditation plus right activity. And where do we spend most of our waking hours? Even if we're retired, we don't spend most of our waking hours in meditation. We spend it in activity. So it's vital that we use every moment during activity as a stepping stone towards even-mindedness, which in turn serves as a stepping stone towards communion with God. So again, the question is, how do we effectively cultivate the even-mindedness necessary to entice Divine Mother to reveal herself to us fully? And there's dozens of answers, but you won't find two qualities or two traits more closely associated or mentioned in connection with even-mindedness than non-attachment and mastery over our desires. From Lesson 79, Guruji wrote, "In mortal consciousness, under the influence of Maya," referred to as Satan in Christianity, "you cannot have pleasure without also being susceptible to its opposite pain, because the world of duality is made of pairs of opposites, light and dark, joy and sorrow, good and evil, health and sickness, life and death. That is why the wise seek to rise above it. The great ones show us how to cultivate an inner transcendence through non-attachment and transmuting all material desires into desire for God, while appreciating what is good and beautiful in His creation." We are meant to enjoy the wholesome pleasures of life, the beauty of nature, good music, inspiring books, and so forth, but with enough detachment so when those things are taken away, our even-mindedness, our peace, our happiness is untouched. Because that even-mindedness, that sacred peace of mind, is not coming from anything outside of ourselves. It's coming from the soul. It's coming from God. I read a story about an eager disciple. He went to his guru and he asked, "What do I need to do to achieve self-realization?" And his guru gave him very unusual, unexpected instructions. His guru told him, "Go to the cemetery and swear at all the dead persons buried there in the name of their fathers and other relatives. Then return to me tomorrow." So the disciple did as he was instructed, went back to the ashram the next day, and this time his guru gave him more instructions. He said, "Go to the cemetery again. Take perfumes and incense sticks with you. Light an incense stick on each grave and apply perfume to it. Then praise each dead person with all your heart, saying, 'You are good, your father was good, your mother was good, all your relatives are good.'" So the disciple did what he was told, reported to his guru's ashram the next day, and this time his guru asked him a question. He said, "What was the reaction of the dead when you alternately praised and verbally abused them?" And the disciple said, "Guruji, what could they say? I praised and verbally abused them, but none of them reacted." Don't get ahead of me. Because the guru answered, "You should become like them." His guru said, "Attain that state where honor and insult, praise and blame do not matter. Then you will achieve self-realization." And it is a fun story, and yet it conveys a very profound truth. Because Lord Krishna said the same thing about yoga. Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, "Remaining immersed in yoga, perform all actions, forsaking attachment to their fruits, being detached to success and failure, not indifferent, non-attachment." Krishna said, "This mental evenness is termed yoga." Again, to paraphrase, the mental evenness during all activities, successful or otherwise, is termed yoga. And we know that yoga is this vast science. It is the science of religion. And Paramahansaji said that Kriya Yoga is the highway to the infinite, the airplane route to God. And yoga is all these things. And yet here, in this sloka, Lord Krishna distilled that vast science down to one word: even-mindedness. And in his commentary on this sloka, Paramahansaji wrote, "Man, made in God's image, should learn to manifest that divine equilibrium by which he can live and act in this world without being victimized by its dualities. The devotee who feels no attachment to the results of either meditative or mundane activities remains unconcerned as regards success or failure. To perform actions thus undisturbed by their results is to maintain the mental balance of yoga. This state of evenness becomes an altar of spirit. Peace is the altar of God." And he's not talking about indifference. Brother G used indifference last night, but it can often have a negative connotation. He's talking about living life with enthusiasm, selfless ambition, interest, and energy, but with that natural yogic non-attachment. And this brought up an important point, because we know very early on the path we read, and I think we all understand, we're striving to offer the fruits of our material activities to God. But similarly, as Guruji just said here, we want to offer the fruits of our meditative activities to God and not concern ourselves with the results. Leave the results to God. We've counseled many devotees who beat themselves up by what they're not seeing in meditation, by what they're not hearing in meditation. Doesn't matter. You make the effort, leave the rest to God. Guruji emphasized again and again that Divine Mother won't reveal herself to us fully until she's convinced our love is unconditional. And meditating without attachment to the fruits of our meditative efforts is the way to prove our love is unconditional. And non-attachment to the fruits of our mundane and meditative effort prevents our altar of peace from being compromised when things do not go our way, when there is no seeming response from God to our efforts in meditation. The key word there is seeming. If we're doing our best, making the efforts, the response is always there, and the progress is always there. Guruji goes on in his commentary on that sloka from Lord Krishna, and he said, the worldly man engages in activity with his full concentration on the results thereof. Consequently, he is persistently affected by his interchanging triumphs and defeats. Working for himself and not for God, he is elated by gain and cast down by loss. And the next two sentences are very powerful. Many of you remember Brother Turyananda. He passed in the 1990s, I believe it was. Other than Paramahansa Yogananda, I don't think the SRF order has had a more colorful personality. And he would sometimes begin his Sunday services by saying, okay, fasten your seatbelts and put on your hard hats. We're going to cover some rough ground today. And I think he would say that before these next two sentences. Because Guruji wrote, a mind attached to the meager fruits of actions springing from limited material or meditative activities cannot feel the omniscient tranquility of the omnipresent Spirit. A mind attached to meager fruits of limited material or meditative activities. Attachments, desires, moods, it's all constricting. It's confining our consciousness. We're striving to receive the ocean of God's infinite bliss. We have to expand our consciousness to do that. But when we engage in emotions, harmful emotions, attachments, and desires, we're constricting. We're making more finite, and the finite cannot contain the infinite. And so, then he went on, and he said, the little mind of the little man attached to little things cannot possibly identify itself with the universal consciousness of God. Again, that's why this is such an important topic, because we spend most of our time in activity, and every moment in activity, we should use it as a stepping stone toward the even-mindedness that is the altar of God. The finite cannot contain the infinite. Guruji goes on and says, just as an unsteady mirror cannot properly reflect the objects in front of it, so a mind whose calmness is distorted by the thoughts of success or failure is unable to reflect the unchangeable Spirit. The devotee should perform activities with the mind immersed in God. Anyone who carries out all actions in this way is in the state of liberation, even as the Heavenly Father works through all creation without being attached to or bound by its constant flux. The Lord's consciousness manifests in all states of creation, preservation, and destruction, yet remains unchanged. As God is omnipresent in the cosmos, but is undisturbed by its variety, so man, who has a soul, is individualized spirit, and must learn to participate in this cosmic drama with a perfectly poised and equilibrated mind. And there isn't a saint, an avatar, or a prophet who doesn't echo what Lord Buddha has said here, what Lord Krishna has said here, what Paramahansaji has said here. Here are some words from the New Testament from the Lord Christ. Christ said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." And he didn't qualify it. In his commentary on this Bible passage, Guruji said, what Jesus meant by this advice and these promises might be more fully expressed as follows. Do not trouble your heart no matter what comes, what trials come to you. And again, I looked. No exceptions. Absolute, no wiggle room. And that's why the Ten Commandments aren't prefaced with, if you're in the mood, thou shalt not steal. And Guruji went on to say, this is what Jesus intended, advising his disciples to take the entirety of human experiences calmly, like the Oriental yogi, without forming egoistic likes and dislikes, attachments, desires, and so forth. Guruji said, souls are sent on earth by God to watch his cosmic motion picture with a calm, non-attached consciousness, befitting souls made in his divine image. But when they respond to earthly experiences with the permutations of likes and dislikes, they lose their immortal consciousness. Any soul who forgets its spiritual status during its earthly sojourn forms mortal attachments. That is why Jesus and self-realized yogis advise all truth seekers to pass through trials, good fortunes, misfortunes, struggling for righteousness with an undisturbed state of heart as the way of attaining salvation. And again, it's a personal choice. It's a personal responsibility. And again, it's easy to understand. Last night, Brother Chidanandaji quoted Guruji when he said that we are the masters of the moments of our life. But exerting mastery over every moment, over every emotion, is challenging, and that's okay. So while we might not be great at it in the beginning, again, just putting one foot in front of the other, just meeting the dozens of daily crosses that confront us daily to rob us of our peace. We just make that effort every day. Every day we get better, a little better. So we look back over a year, 5 years. I am calmer in responding to these things. And in time we respond to challenges, setbacks, disappointments, and tests without compromising our sacred peace of mind. And then it gets easier and easier and becomes second nature. Because that is the natural state of the soul. But only if we sincerely, consciously, willfully, and deliberately strive to make that effort minute to minute. That's where introspection comes in. We catch ourselves in the minute to hold on to our inner peace, regardless of what life throws at us. And by cultivating the ability to process all aspects of life calmly, objectively, and with the proper perspective, when we do that, then in the words of Christ, we're protecting our heart from being troubled. And when we do that, we are building brick by brick, test by test, circumstance by circumstance, a temple of peace within. So no matter what comes into our life, our sacred peace of mind, our even-mindedness is protected. It is constant. And when our peace is constant, our awareness of God is constant. When our awareness of God is constant, our communion with God is constant, in meditation and in activity. I read a story about a man. He lived on the beach in the eastern seaboard, very sparsely populated area. His nearest neighbor, he said, was a retired philosophy professor. And he would observe his neighbor wading out into the ocean, into the waves every day, dive under them, swim out beyond them, swim up and down the coast. But he noticed he would do it on stormy days, days when the waves were huge and fearful, And his curiosity got the best of him, and so he met him one day, and he said, "Why do you do that?" And the philosophy professor responded, I've wanted to do it all my life, but big waves always terrified me. Then I weighed the dangers and decided I would have to try. I waited out, watched until one of those monsters towered up like a cliff, then I ducked under. When I surfaced behind the wave, I felt I was king of the world. But he could see that his neighbor wasn't buying what he was selling. And so he added, he said, "No man can hope to control his destiny. The best he can hope for is to control himself, one single act at a time." He said, "Those acts are like bricks in a wall. A wall made of such bricks is a man's character." And that's what we're talking about here. We can't control world events. We can't control others. What we can control is ourselves, our mind, our behavior, our emotions, our attitude. One act at a time. And every act of self-control in the face of temptation, every act of even-mindedness in the face of fearful or troubling circumstances is like adding a brick to that wall of that temple within that will protect our peace and will eventually entice Divine Mother to reveal herself to us fully. And meditation is the greatest way to cultivate calmness, even-mindedness. But we can't cultivate unconditional even-mindedness without enduring, experiencing the inevitable ups and downs of life. I was in Sri Dayamata's office one day, and she said, "It's easy to be holy when you don't have anything to do." And similarly, it's easy to be holy when everything's going our way. But it's when things aren't going our way that we prove our love is unconditional, our faith is unconditional, our even-mindedness is unconditional. So with all of this in mind, if we want to cultivate even-mindedness, it's important that we make peace with imperfection. In ourselves, in others, in the world. Tests and trials are part of what the soul needs to hammer out its salvation on the anvil of this gross earth. If we make peace with imperfection, then we won't go through life expecting that nothing should go wrong in our life and resenting it when it does go wrong. Instead, when we don't indulge in that, then we prevent wasting our time indulging in harmful, destructive emotions such as self-pity and worry and hate and anger and so forth. And freeing ourselves from that burden, we are free to look at what lesson we are meant to learn through each circumstance, through each person. And when we do that, again, then we're truly using every moment in activity as a stepping stone toward even-mindedness, which is the altar of God, a stepping stone toward the goal of life, self-realization. And we'll be happier every step of the way, we'll be more peaceful every step of the way, and in a gift to mankind, we'll be more pleasant to be around every step of the way. And what we're really doing here is changing our perspective from, "Oh, woe is me, why is this happening to me? Why are they treating me like this?" to, "Lord, I don't know why I have to go through this, but you do, and that's enough for me. I know it comes for one reason, to take me to a higher state of consciousness. Help me to learn the lessons I am meant to learn through this experience. Help me to cultivate the ennobling soul qualities that I have an opportunity to cultivate through this experience. Above all, Divine Mother, help me to deepen my love for you through this experience." And that's a very effective way to cultivate even-mindedness in activity. We do it by taking the cosmic perspective, not looking at life through the worldly perspective, the mortal perspective. And with regards to the importance of even-mindedness, Guruji went so far to explain this in Divine Romance. And again, if I had a button, it's time to fasten your seatbelt again. Guruji in one of his talks, said, "This you must learn. Instead of hurrying in a state of emotional excitement to get someplace, and then not enjoying it once you arrive because you are restless, try to be more calm. There is no excuse for being restless within." He didn't qualify it. He went on, "If you are always calm, you will also be more efficient. And if you want to wake up from this cosmic dream world, you must practice calmness no matter what happens." And we're all sitting here because we want to wake up from this cosmic dream world. But again, he puts the responsibility on our shoulders. If you want to wake up from this cosmic dream world, you must practice calmness no matter what happens. As soon as your mind becomes restless, give it a whack with your will and order it to be calm. Don't make a fuss about anything. Whenever you worry, remember, you are deepening the cosmic delusion within you. If you are always calm, you will also be more efficient. Now that's practical. Yoga is practical. And he didn't say that we just be more efficient in our spiritual endeavors. We'll be more efficient in every aspect of our lives. We'll make better decisions, and once again, we'll be a lot more pleasant to be around. But I came across this story of how we're more efficient when we're calm. There was a fireman, and he went to a group of first graders to teach them fire safety. And during the course of his presentation, he instructed them and then demonstrated the stop, drop, and roll method. And what that is, if you're, say, for example, cooking, your shirt, your blouse catches fire, you don't run. That will fan the flames, make it worse. You stop where you are, you drop to the ground, and you roll to extinguish the flames. And he demonstrated this to the kids. And then after his talk, he thought he'd give them a quiz. And so he picked out one little boy. He said, "Now, Johnny, if your coat was on fire, what would you do?" And it would have been very easy to lose your cool, to get nervous. Everybody's watching. If you answer incorrectly, the kids are going to laugh. They might make fun of you. But clearly this was an old soul, an old yogi, because he clearly remained calm, because he came back with the most efficient answer. When the fireman said, "Now, Johnny, if your coat was on fire, what would you do?" Johnny said, "I wouldn't put it on." We can be like Johnny. If you are always calm, you will also be more efficient. So back to Guruji's quote, he said, "Whenever your mind becomes restless, give it a whack with your will and order it to be calm." That's how important even mindedness, calmness is. And our will, it seems impossible sometimes, and we won't be great at it in the beginning. That's okay. But our will, our human will, is a reflection of the divine will. And again, the calmer we are, the more intuition grows, the more in tune we'll be, and the more our human will can reflect that divine will. And we also, as again, Divine Mother has endowed every single one of us with the intelligence to understand and the power to overcome everything that comes into our life. And again, it won't be easy. It's not meant to be easy. It was late Mother Teresa of Calcutta who once said that, "I know that God won't give me anything more than I can handle. I just wish he wouldn't trust me so much." But trust us, Divine Mother does, because again, she knows who we truly are. And she knows she has endowed each one of us with the intelligence to understand and the power to overcome. Then Guruji said, don't make a fuss about anything. This can be taken out of context. This could be easily misunderstood, because he's not saying we should become a doormat. Sometimes bad things come into our life, and we're not meant to just give up and say, "Oh, it's my karma." It is our karma, but we accept it in the moment, understanding that we either needed it or deserved it, and then it comes to us for one reason, to take us to a higher state of consciousness. And it may be our karma, but again, we ask, what lessons can I learn here? What qualities can I cultivate here? How can I deepen my love for you through this experience, all the while reason, willing, and acting to remove that obstacle from our lives? There are times when we have to stand strong for principles, for Dharma. There are times we have to stand up for a loved one, a coworker, a friend. There are times we have to resist evil in the form of hatred or meanness and so forth. What Guruji is saying is do it with calmness. Do it with love in our heart, peace in our being. And if we do that, again, we can maintain our awareness of God through all life's experiences. Maintain our communion with God in meditation and activity. And there's no shortage of great examples. The war of Kurukshetra was an historical war. Vyasa wrote the Gita and used that historical war as an analogy to the spiritual life, the spiritual battles we face as we strive to fulfill the highest purpose of life, self-realization. And there's the good guys, the Pandavas, and there's the bad guys, the Kurus. And the Pandavas are Arjuna, his brother Yudhishthira, Bhima, Sahadeva, Nakula. They did not fight that war out of anger. They did not fight that war out of hatred. They fought that war for the love of Krishna, for the love of Dharma. They fought that war from a center of calmness. And Guruji was a wonderful example. Guruji had a very short lifetime, had to establish this work, this worldwide work, this special dispensation in a very short amount of time. And he had to train his disciples very quickly. And so he would test them. We often hear how he would fiercely scold the devotees to see if their even-mindedness could be compromised, to let them flex their even-mindedness muscles. And so he was scolding a devotee one day in a room, and this devotee had her back against a wall, and Guruji was pacing towards her, scolding her, and pacing away from her. And Murli Mata, who entered the monastic order as a teenager, was editor-in-chief, and helped Guruji produce God Talks with Arjuna, Second Coming of Christ, new edition of the lessons. She eventually, of course, became president of Self-Realization Fellowship. She was there, and she was standing perpendicular, so she could see Guruji's face as he was pacing towards this devotee and away from this devotee. And she said as he was pacing towards her, his face was fierce. It was stern. It was a little frightening. And Guruji was scolding her very severely. But she could see him as he turned around and started pacing in the opposite direction, his face not visible to the nun getting scolded. And immediately his face relaxed. He smiled. He gave her a side eye and a wink. He wasn't scolding out of anger. He was scolding from that center of calmness out of love. We were talking about the 26 ennobling qualities of the soul, and one of those qualities is courage. And courage isn't necessarily an absence of fear, but the ability to act in the face of fear. And we can act in a manner befitting a child of God if we are calm and of even mind. It's very difficult to act in a manner befitting a child of God in a state of agitation or anger or high emotions. An author summed it up well. He said, peace, calmness, even-mindedness come not from the absence of conflict in life, but from the ability to cope with it. And this is what Guruji was saying when he encouraged us, do not make a fuss about anything. Life is full of struggles and righteous battles. What Guruji is saying is take on those struggles and those battles with love in our heart, peace in our being, and act. And I read a very compelling near-death experience by a fellow named Mellon Thomas Benedict. And he had been an activist prior to his near-death experience. And he had become very judgmental, very negative, very critical. He wrote, "Previous to my near-death experience, I was very judgmental, believing that everyone was really messed up, everyone but me." But he had this very profound near-death experience, and he saw the loving, harmonious plan behind all creation preservation, and destruction. And he came back understanding exactly what Christ was saying, what Guruji was saying here. And he said, if you're into a cause, for example, if you're into ecology, go for it with all your might, but do not become disheartened or depressed. He realized, yes, stand up for principles, stand up for dharma, for righteousness, for truth, but with the proper detachment. So if things do not go our way, we don't become over-emotionally involved in the drama and invite that agitation and sting of delusion into our consciousness. This is exactly what Guruji was saying when he said, don't make a fuss about anything. Play our role, again, with enthusiasm, with selfless ambition, with energy, with interest, but with that detachment so that we let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. We can fulfill that advice of Christ. And then Guruji concluded that thought. He said, whenever you worry, remember you are deepening the cosmic delusion within you. And he's not just talking about worry, fear, anger, hatred, all the harmful emotions. When we indulge in them, we're choosing to deepen the cosmic delusion within ourselves. None of us want to do that. So that's, again, the importance of this topic is use every day, every moment to hold on to your peace. We won't be perfect, that's okay. But we get better over time, and that's what's important. So to cultivate that even-mindedness, he said meditation is the greatest way. It's not enough on its own. Non-attachment, very important. Mastery over our desires, looking at life from that cosmic perspective. What lessons am I meant to learn through this as we reason, will, and act to remove an obstacle from our lives? Making peace with imperfection as a means to cultivate even-mindedness. But in God Talks with Arjuna, Guruji gives us another very powerful weapon, another arrow in our quiver to maintain our mental equilibrium. He wrote, whether a yogi meets gain or loss in the course of performing dutiful actions, he remains even-minded. Both success and failure are bound to come at various times in response to the inherent duality in the structure of the body, mind, and the world. The devotee who constantly reminds himself of his soul has little temptation to identify himself with the physical and mental phantasmagoria. Now that's a great quote just for the use of the word phantasmagoria. But Guruji brings up a vital point there. And I don't think there's any more recurring theme in all his talks. He could be talking about diet, renunciation, forgiveness, anything. He always comes back to identify as a soul. Even when we don't realize it, identify it. As Shakespeare said, if you have a virtue, not assume it. Identify with it and let all your decisions and thoughts and actions flow from that identification with who we truly are, the soul. Constantly reminding ourselves of who we truly are. Nothing in this world can touch the soul. The body and mind, yes, not the soul. And calmness and even-mindedness are the natural state of the soul. They are the default of the soul. It's only through identification with the ego that we have allowed restlessness and moodiness and unhappiness and restlessness, etc., all these alternating states of duality to dominate our consciousness to the point we're oblivious to that seed of divinity within. So reminding ourselves of our soul nature, again, day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, throughout the day, as tests present themselves to challenge our mental equanimity, that will help us to cultivate and strengthen even-mindedness. And as we said, it's not easy, it's not meant to be, but the effort is always worth it. There were a couple of friends, and one of the fellows was one of these people who always seemed to be the recipient of good fortune. So again, another stroke of good luck came into his life, and his other friend was a little agitated. Said, "Oh, you're just lucky." And his friend said, "Well, that may be, but I've always found the harder I work, the luckier I am." And it's the same with even-mindedness. The more we make that conscious, willful, deliberate, sincere effort every day to hold on to our peace, despite the inevitable tests and trials that come into our lives, the calmer and more even-minded we become. And the greater attunement we experience, the greater progress we will realize. It's not a matter of luck, it's a matter of effort. Guruji once said, "Meditation is the way by which you must strive to rise above delusion and know your true nature. If you can hold on to that consciousness in activity as well as in meditation, remaining undisturbed by delusive experiences, then you will be above this dream world of God's. The dream will be over for you." This is why Lord Krishna stressed that if you want freedom in spirit, you must be of even mind under all circumstances. And he quoted Lord Krishna, who said to Arjuna, "The man who is calm and even-minded during pain and pleasure, the one whom these cannot ruffle, he alone is fit to attain everlastingness." And then lesson 64, Guruji said, "Calmness is one of the attributes of the immortality within you. You are a prodigal son when you worry. There is static coming through your mind radio. God's song is the song of calmness. Nervousness is the static. Calmness is the voice of God speaking to you through the radio of your soul. Nervousness is the handmaiden of change and death. When you are calm, even death cannot frighten you, for you know you are a God. Calmness is the living breath of God's immortality in you. Calmness is the living breath of God's immortality in you." So we have many arrows in our quiver to fight that good fight, those righteous battles, and to hold on to our even-mindedness and build that inner environment that will support, enhance, and make firm our spiritual gains. Some of those, there's dozens and dozens of arrows we can use. We're in the office, our emotions are getting out of control. One thing Guruji said is get out of that environment right away. Don't come back till you've regained control of your emotions. If you have an opportunity to do that, you can do that. Practice some breathing exercises. Take a walk. Practice 6 kriyas. Engage in some mental chanting. Practice some mantra yoga, japa yoga. Or, as Guruji said, let my silent war cry ever be God, God, God. We could be in a courtroom. We just have a few seconds. We just bow our heads, cover our eyes. God, God, God. Get that even-mindedness back. But practicing affirmations is a perhaps underutilized arrow in our quiver. And I think it falls somewhere under the umbrella of mantra yoga or japa yoga. And Guruji said about japa yoga that we repeat a truth with deep concentration and conviction. He said our mind becomes filled with holy vibrations that neutralize the material vibrations. That neutralize the vibrations of material consciousness. So, I thought we would end by practicing an affirmation together. So let us just sit, meditation posture, close the eyes, lift the gaze to the level of the point between the eyebrows, and either concentrate at the Christ center between the eyebrows or at the heart center. And please repeat after me. This affirmation will repeat just a few times. Teach me to sing thy changeless song of bliss while I play my role in the drama of life and death. Teach me to sing thy changeless song of bliss while I play my role in the drama of life and death. Teach me to sing thy changeless song of bliss while I play my role in the drama of life and death. Teach me to sing thy changeless song of bliss while I play my role in the drama of life and death. Let us close this convocation with a prayer. Let us fold our hands and pray from our hearts. Heavenly Father, Mother, friend, beloved God, great gurus, saints of all religions, we bow to you all. Divine Mother, uplift our consciousness that we may feel thy vibrations, and feeling them, may we remain awake in thee forevermore. We offer our humble prayer for a new consciousness in thee. Om Shanti. Shanti. Amen. Guruji would often encourage the devotees after meditation. And other times he would say, what you learn in meditation, practice in activity. And if he was here physically today addressing all of us, I think he would say, what you have learned during convocation, practice in every aspect of your life. And the offering today, even-mindedness, it is so important. Even-mindedness is that foundation of an inner environment that will support, enhance, and sustain all our spiritual gains. Kriya Yoga and even-mindedness is the key to living beyond the age we have incarnated in. Kriya Yoga and even-mindedness is the key to living a transcendent life. Peace be with you and pranams.